Today I thought I'd talk to you guys about kind of a challenge that I've been facing, specifically around Battlefield 4 and doing YouTube recently, and this has to do with something that I feel as though lots of veteran players are feeling right now and some difficulties that players are having. Now I'm not sure if this is the same for you, but ever since the last few patches, I found Battlefield 4 so much more challenging. I'm having trouble getting as many kills as I'm used to getting, and capturing objectives, and just having an overall good game. Now I know that sounds somewhat arrogant and kinda douchey, but considering I've been playing the game since launch, I kind of have a standard, a precedent that I set myself to do every kind of match. Like I'm used to getting, I'd say, above a 2.5 KD, and at least getting roughly 8 to 9,000 points. That's like the bare bog standard I set myself for when I record videos. And I'm sure lots of you have felt the same way. You've gone back to Battlefield 4 with the same guns and loadouts and things that you're used to, and you're not doing as well as you once did. I used to join games with my AK-5C, get hundreds upon hundreds of kills, and have a very sort of easy-ish time playing the game. I'd get a good KD ratio, it made my footage very editable, and it was so ridiculously easy to record Battlefield 4. It was join a public game, get a couple of kills, jump out, plenty of footage to edit, and it was as simple as that. But after the last few patches, the same guns that I used to use are just not the same anymore. I'm losing gun battles. I'm not having as easy a time as I'd say I'm generally quite used to. And I know that sounds like, oh yeah, well done Battlefield, you're improving. But at the same time, there's lots of players out there who are like, okay, well how do I get back to the way things were? How do I improve myself again? And today I thought I'd go over exactly the changes that I've used to try and better my gameplay, and how I'm getting into Battlefield 4 again by using different kinds of weapons and setups that I once previously wouldn't use. And I'm also going to explain a few things as to why some of these changes have happened, and why some of us feel as though the guns that we once known and loved just aren't working anymore. So one of the most significant changes is to do with bullet spread, and how your bullets work and how your gun reacts to bullet spread. Now, each weapon that you have has a starting spread value called a minimum spread, and a maximum spread value. On top of that, each weapon has a spread increase value that will increase the spread of your bullets with each shot you fire. So as you start firing a fully automatic weapon, progressively your bullets will more distance themselves and become inaccurate. Now, when you stop firing your weapon, the spread starts to drop down to the minimum value based on that weapon's spread decrease value. Now, one kind of old/recent change is down to this bullet spread issue. Now, all grips, every kind of grip that you use on your gun now, from the stubby, the potato, and the angled grips, come with an increased bullet spread reset of 34%. The same goes for flash hiders, except that's slightly lower now at 17%. So essentially what that means is when you stop firing your weapon, it takes longer for your general bullet spread to decrease, and because of that it may mean that you're being more accurate when you're firing at multiple enemies in succession. So for example, if you're finding multiple kills such as triples and doubles more challenging, you may want to look at your gun setup and remove any grips or flash hiders that you have on. It could be one of the glaring problems which is stopping you from hitting the target. Now at the same time that change happened, long range weapons such as the RPK-12 have had their spread reduced, and also DMRs have had their first shot recoil reduced to 1, some of them were on 2.15, and now that's all the way down to 1. And essentially it means that the entire playing field has changed. Long range weapons such as slower assault rifles and slower LMGs, and especially DMRs now, are much more beneficial than the assault rifles and carbines that we were used to before. It's making the game more challenging because people are killing you at longer ranges due to the DMR change and some of the long weapons changes as well. It feels like to me that the ARs and LMGs are practically impossible to pull off mid to long range kills with. You either miss the target due to bullet spread, or you get taken down by a DMR or counter DMR player. If the intended purpose was for ARs to be used at mid to long range, that goal in my opinion has failed, because use of an AR at mid to long range has resulted in DMRs and everybody else on the field practically dominating you. So that's a lot of glaring problems already, and some of you are probably thinking, well, maybe I need to adjust my attachment selection. But one of the bigger, more glaring problems for me is that every weapon that I used previously feels really generic now. I can't really see the differentiation between the guns that I use. The M416, for example, feels exactly the same as the AK-5C. The guns that I previously used and cherished so much are essentially the same thing with slightly different fire rates and magazine counts now, and I'm certain lots of you feel the same way. I'm certain loads of you pick up weapons now and think, this is exactly the same as the gun I was just using, and you're probably not seeing any performance improvements based off of the ones that you've picked up. So what can we do, and what did I do personally to improve how I was playing in Battlefield 4 and get back into the overall consensus of doing well and finding games a lot easier? Now, for me, stats have never really mattered. I look at stats and I think, yeah, cool, you could be a decent weapon, you might not be a decent weapon, but ultimately, it's about the feel of the gun, how I get on with the weapon, and whether or not it's worth my time. And for me, getting used to these changes has been a case of picking up weapons that I would have never previously touched before. So for example, the RPK-12 and RPK-74M, I have never touched up until the last 2 weeks. I picked them up in the last 2 weeks and they're probably my most used weapons now. And my strongest suggestion for anybody out there who's having a hard time getting back into Battlefield is to try an extensive array of LMGs, assault rifles and carbines. Now, although your previous weapons will probably be your favourites, they're probably just not as effective as they used to be. They're probably not as good as they once were, and you're going to have to try and switch it up and change it around a bit in order to get back to what you were used to doing. Now, for me, it means substituting the 416 assault rifle for an RPK-12 LMG and substituting the MG4 for the RPK-74M. These are two weapons which aren't really the same. These weapons don't really correlate with each other, but they have that same feel that I used to have with the previous guns prior to the patch. It has that I know I'm going to kill you with this many bullets at this range kind of feel to it. We all have those kind of weapons where we don't even have to think about where we're shooting the person. We just know that once I land 4 hit markers on you or 5 hit markers on you, you're dead. That's how it's going to go down. But I haven't been able to get that feeling and sensation with any of the weapons that I used before. It's only since I've started to be less stubborn and tried new weapons across different game modes that I finally found my rhythm again. So my general suggestion is to jump into the test range or some team death matches and dominations and just give some gun battles a go. Try these weapons out and see whether or not they suit your playstyle. So guys, that's it for me today. I hope this has kind of helped a few people who were confused about some weapon changes, or perhaps felt the same way, that they just weren't enjoying Battlefield because they weren't playing as well as they used to. I know this is probably going to be irrelevant considering the Hardline DLC comes out soon, but I imagine lots of you will still be playing Battlefield 4 as well. As always lads, it's been me, TheTacticalBrit, and I will see you again soon in another video.